The greatest illusion that the ego shrouds our mind in is the illusion of personal doership. I am in control. So we've all heard the idea of the divine matrix, that the whole universe is one unified field of quantum energy where everything is connected. You could picture the universe kind of like a great block of cosmic jelly, where everything is suspended inside of this plasma-like substratum we call the universe, such that every ripple and vibration that happens in this block of jelly is sending data to the universal mind. So when you really understand this, not just with your mind as a concept, but you feel this truth in your heart, then you realize what it means to say that you always act with life. So in this discussion of non-doership, which we have very often here in 40U, we talk a lot about the ego's third belief in the 40U curriculum. That is the belief in personal doership. Yes, the belief in control. Now, the belief in personal doership is admittedly the most challenging of the ego's three beliefs to overcome, because it is all pervasive in our experience, right? The belief in personal doership is that belief of the ego that's just behind every action we commit, that reinforces itself with every action we commit. And so we really feel like separate characters, don't we? It's a genuine experience. It's a genuine feeling. We feel like we're individually or independently selecting all of our actions from moment to moment, rather than, it's not like we genuinely feel like a wave on the surface of the ocean, just being moved by the undertow and the flow of life. That realization has to be earned, right? It's not native to us here in third density. That's the level of consciousness just above where we're currently at. So how do we get there? That's the question we're looking at today. The third belief is also the most difficult belief to penetrate, because it rests on the foundation of the first two beliefs, right? Before we can believe we are the individual doer and controller of life, we have to first have a belief in lack, which gives us any need at all to control life. And then that lack leads us to attachments, which give us the reason why we have to take control from the universe, take control over life, to win those outcomes and gain those attachments we have, because that's how we're going to find happiness. So control rests upon attachment and lack, which is why it's the most challenging of the three beliefs. But this is also why we make the most progress in the third belief by working upon the first two beliefs. They're all connected, right? We can't make progress on one belief without making progress in the others. So the more that we see through the illusion of lack, and the more we surrender our attachments, the easier it is to realize that we are an extension of life, lacking nothing, connected to everything. We're not a separate character. So it's not like we deal with the third belief alone in isolation. Yeah, we're dealing with it in conjunction with lack and attachment. But as I've expressed before, one of the greatest passions that the universe has sort of installed into me is this passion for making maps for the process of spiritual evolution. I'm very, you might say, zealous for spiritual growth, to put it lightly. And I have a really deep desire to be of service to the world by helping light the way along this often very challenging, confusing path that we call spiritual ascension. And so the spiritual ascension journey is actually not confusing at all, but it's very simple and very straightforward. Give up what is false. Stop believing yourself to be the body, a separate character, and just realize that you're one with everything. Love everything as if it's yourself. That's it. That's the spiritual path. But although the path itself isn't confusing, it's very straightforward and simple. All is one. It's the ego that actually confuses us and makes that path, that ascension path, feel confusing or challenging in some way, right? The ego is what obscures the obvious, simple truth of oneness from our awareness. And it continually surrounds us with illusions, mental projections that are trying to prevent us from perceiving the oneness that underlies all things. And so the greatest illusion that the ego shrouds our mind in is the illusion of personal doership, the third belief of ego, right? I am in control, or I am the doer. And this is really just the I am the body belief, right? To believe that you are a physical body is to believe you're doing all the physical body's actions. I'm the body, so I'm the character that acts. I'm the body that acts, right? And so whenever I answer questions here in our 40U live calls about non-doership, I can always sort of hear the sentiment in the voice of the questioner asking about it. That, the belief that transcending personal doership is virtually impossible. Only the greatest sages of history have ever done it. It's not really realistic for me, so I'll just learn about it. I'll try to integrate some practical concepts, but I don't expect to really integrate it fully. I don't believe I'll ever be able to live from non-doership. I can just maybe understand it a little bit better and maybe it'll help me on my way, but fully ascending into that awareness, it's not really in the cards for me. Come on, who has those thoughts a little bit? I know I'm speaking to somebody, if not myself. This is the way the ego paints the picture, isn't it? You can't overcome my third belief. It's too great for you. I infuse it behind every action, every thought. How could you possibly think you're going to overcome such an all-pervasive belief? So I want to give you today another helpful pointer on this map of ascension, which we're all journeying through, to help you bridge this seemingly uncrossable gap between personal doership and non-doership. That is separation consciousness and unity consciousness. Separation consciousness is personal doership. I'm an isolated, separate actor, independent actor. I act alone and apart from everything. This is my game to win, and everyone else is in my way, even the universe itself. I will put all under my heel and conquer everything according to my desires. That's separation consciousness, ego consciousness. On this hand, we have unity consciousness, non-doership. I am one with all that is. I cannot act alone or independently. Everything I do is the universe in motion. That's unity consciousness. How do we cross this seemingly uncrossable gap? This is what I want to help you with today. I'm going to give you the progression of how we cross this gap, because really the mistake we're making is we're trying to make this giant leap from one thought system to another in one foul swoop. And it doesn't really happen like that, at least not for most of us. If you happen to be born an enlightened sage of 6th density or something, then you may stand a chance at having that one-shot kill, where some experience happens, some realization dawns, and personal doership is wiped out forever. The Ramana Maharshis, the people that are coming to this planet, this incarnation with a very high frequency, can maybe jump that gap in one leap. For most of us, it's a progression, right? And even for those enlightened sages, those wanderers, those avatars that have those one-shot enlightenment awakenings, they had a prior third density lifetime, or many lifetimes, where they emerged into this understanding gradually. Right? They're coming from a higher density, so when they come here, they've sort of earned the right to jump across in one foul swoop, right? But even most wanderers, 4th density wanderers, 5th density wanderers, and 6th density wanderers still have to make this progression gradually. It's just about how fast can you make that progression in a human lifetime. A higher density soul is going to make that progression a lot quicker, a lot more efficiently than a native 3rd density soul will. But nonetheless, it's the same progression for all of us. It's one progression from separation to unity. So here are the steps, yeah? Here's how we can map our progress and know I am moving closer and closer towards integrating this awareness that I am not the doer. So here it is. The affirmation we give you in our 40U curriculum in Module 7 on the third belief is, I'm not in control, I am being lived. But we've also given you a variation of this affirmation, which is, I'm not in control, I am in cooperation. And this is what I want to focus on today. This affirmation gives us the intermediary understanding of what non-doership really is. I often quote the Buddha when I talk about non-doership, right? Buddha said, actions happen and deeds are done, but there's no individual doer thereof. Yes, actions happen. Non-doership doesn't mean actions don't happen, deeds aren't done, nothing happens. That's non-duality nonsense. Things are always happening. The universe is constant vibration, constant motion. Actions happen and deeds are done constantly. But there's no individual doer who does them. To say that you are not the doer of your actions is not to say actions don't happen. It's only to say that your actions are not happening alone. Your actions are not happening alone. They're not happening in a vacuum. In that sense, they're really not individual actions, are they? Because they're intimately connected to the whole. So the intermediary understanding that you can begin using and contemplating every day is exactly that. If you feel like an individual character who's really choosing all your own actions independently from life, no problem. Let's be honest, we all feel like that. That's where we all are. We can work with that, right? You're not lost in that state of awareness. As a concession to this belief that, man, I really feel like a separate character, choosing my own actions in isolation. As a concession to that, let's put it like this. Yes, individual doer, you are indeed performing all your actions. You're correct. The only catch is, you can't act alone. Now we've introduced a little twist to the ego's thought system that acts like a Trojan horse that comes into the ego's kingdom, right? Ego can't fully deny that reality, right? Ego looking around at this universe that it's constantly interacting with, it's in relationship to all these things all the time. When we say, let's be honest, in reality, yeah, you're acting, but you're just not acting alone. Ego's kind of forced to admit that unarguable logic, right? Okay, yeah, I'm the doer still, I'm just not the alone doer. I'm not acting all alone by myself. My actions influence things, my actions are connected to things. And once the ego lets in that Trojan horse, it's like a virus injected into the ego's thought system. And it begins proliferating and tearing apart the ego's thought system of separateness. Because you can't accept this idea that your actions don't happen in a vacuum and also be the individual doer. Because now you're forced to take in the implications of your actions as being connected. So you never act alone, you always act with life. It is impossible that you could act in a way that does not affect or influence the universe around you. Because quite obviously, you're part of the universe, right? Here you are in the universe, you're part of it. So we've all heard the idea of the divine matrix, yes? That the whole universe is one unified field of quantum energy where everything is connected. So in this analogy of the divine matrix, you could picture the universe kind of like a great block of cosmic jelly, where everything is suspended inside of this plasma-like substratum we call the universe. And in this substratum of jelly, where everything is suspended, every galaxy, every star, every planet, every creature, everything within the substratum, anything that moves sends reverberations, right? When you poke a block of jelly, the whole block moves and sways, right? So anything inside the block of jelly that moves causes reverberations through the whole block of jelly. That's what it means to say you are in cooperation with life. You are one with life. But the second layer to this analogy of the universe as like a block of jelly that everything is suspended in, a divine matrix, a unified field of wholeness, oneness, right? Nothing separate, nothing outside of it. Well, the second layer to this analogy is that this block of jelly is not just inert and lifeless or something, but this block of jelly is like the brain fluid of God. It's like the gray matter of God's mind. This block of jelly is intelligent. It's pure intelligence. You're inside God's brain, right? Such that every ripple and vibration that happens in this block of jelly is sending data to the universal mind. The universe is computing and analyzing every single action in the universe and responding accordingly. Right? This is the law of attraction. What vibrations you send out are computed by the universe and reflected back to you in the form of circumstances. So every action that you take with life is also sending life tons of information about you. Your state of consciousness, your beliefs, your desires, your fears, and what you need to continue progressing in your evolution. And the universe is responding. Right? Nothing is hidden, nothing is concealed, not a single thought, not a single feeling or motive or idea or impulse. Everything in the universe is completely transparent to the divine mind. So there's not one single action or thought or feeling or motive that's not seen by the universal mind. So when you really understand this, not just with your mind as a concept, but you feel this truth in your heart, you feel it to be true, you don't just think it to be true, then you realize what it means to say that you always act with life and never apart from life. So this is the bridge from personal doership to non-doership. Begin to understand and accept that you always act with life and never alone or apart from life. Because really that's the belief in personal doership, isn't it? It's that you act alone, isolated and by yourself, which is impossible. I mean, just practically speaking, right? You need the air you breathe all around you, or your instant death, right? If all the oxygen disappears, bye-bye. No life, no existence in this body. You need the air all around you that you're breathing. On top of that, you need the sun that shines for your nervous system to live. You need the food and water that the earth provides you. You depend on all the people in your life. You depend on societal systems. I mean, we could go on and on, right? You wouldn't be able to be on this call right now, listening to what I'm saying, unless someone else built this computer or iPhone that you're listening on, and the software, all of it. Like, you can't do any of that. You would have no chance of being on this call right now without other people having built this computer. Like, this is just a tiny fraction of all the relationships you're dependent on. All the forces, all the laws, all the systems you rely upon to choose your actions. You're completely influenced and connected by everything. So how could you possibly be so arrogant as to believe that you act alone or separately from life? So let's upgrade this outdated model and say, yes, you are doing actions, but you're doing all your actions in cooperation with life. And you can't act apart from it. You are always acting with life. So as we contemplate this, we start to see the implications of it. It's kind of like driving a car. You've probably all seen those IndyCar races, right? Where they're driving on those road courses with tons of zigzags and tight winding corners and hairpin turns. IndyCar drivers will tell you how they master the art of driving. And I can tell you one thing, it's not by driving apart from the course or the road that they're driving on, right? Although they are in a car driving a vehicle that appears to be separate from the road, the driver must be in total cooperation with the racetrack, right? They must feel the curves and the turns, and they must become one with the track that they're racing on. And if for even 1 second they attempt to veer off course, not only are they definitely going to lose the race, but they're going to be in serious danger of crashing. If the track veers left, you have to veer left with it. You can try to veer right if you want, but You're going to find out really quick that you don't want to do that. There's consequences to violating the laws of life, the law of one. So you want to stay on track with life, on course, and move with the ebbs and flows and turns of life. You want to become one with life, like a driver is one with the track they race on. So this is what life is doing for us. It's directing our every move, and we cannot take a single step apart from life. Life is always like this. It's like unfolding before us, and we're a few steps behind trying to take the steps life is laying out before us to move in flow with life, right? So we have to be intimately connected with the flow of life in front of us. And so here is like the 4-step progression from personal doership to non-doership. Step number 1 is the place we all begin. We incarnate into a human body, and we develop an ego and start living life. And we begin at stage 1, personal doership. Everyone thinks they're the doer, right? Everyone thinks that they are just the physical body, acting alone in isolation from the flow of life. That's stage 1. Stage 2 is what we're talking about right now. Learning to see that you are acting not apart from, but with life, right? So it's like, yeah, you're the doer, but you're doing with life. That's stage number 2. We have to live there for a while and get used to that. Oh, I'm acting with life. Nothing I do is separate from life. Nothing I do happens in a vacuum. Everything has consequences and effects on the flow of life around me. I act with life. I'm in cooperation with life. Stage 2. After living there for some time and it becomes natural and it integrates as our normal state of awareness, we can begin moving to stage 3, which is being lived. At stage 3, we stop feeling like I'm a doer who is acting with life and my actions affect life, and so I need to take that into account. No. We've gone beyond that now. Now we say there are no my actions. There's no me acting with life. I am being lived by life. It's just the opposite. I thought I was a person living life, and now I realize that I'm life living a person. I'm being lived. It's all happening. It's life doing everything. And I'm just the vessel that is moved by life. Like the analogy of a hand inside of a puppet, right? The puppet is the body, the person. The hand is what's doing all the actions, and the hand is life. That's being lived, stage 3. After living there for some time, we begin to integrate that awareness and gradually shift into the final stage, stage number 4, non-doership, where we realize there is no character at all. There isn't even a hand inside of a puppet. There's just life, and I am life. Life does everything. There's no person at all that does anything. There's not even a puppet that is puppeteered. Even the puppet is life. So this is the 4-fold progression, right? And let's put it in another way. First, you act apart from life. Then you act with life. And then life acts and lives through you. And then you realize that there's no individual doer or actions at all. There's only life itself. That's the 4th stage. And so again, can you see how this feels difficult only because we're not following the proper progression of realization? It takes time for the human mind to integrate these concepts into embodied awareness. So if we try to tell the mind to jump from personal doership to non-doership, the mind is like, I don't have the intermediary information to know what that even means. That's like asking me to jump over a building. Like, I don't even know how I would begin doing that. I need something in between those 2 states to help me bridge the gap a little bit. So if we follow the correct progression, the progression happens much faster, much sooner, much more efficiently. So you've got to know where you are on this progression and contemplate the stage you're in and integrate the stage you're in until it becomes normal baseline consciousness for you. And the belief in personal doership, any prior stage rather at all, will feel more and more foreign to you and strange and like, man, how did I ever believe that I was the doer? Like, that's so crazy. I'm so clearly connected to everything, and everything I do and think has severe implications in my world and reality. I'm definitely not an independent actor. It becomes more normal to you. It's not some high, lofty concept anymore. It's like very childlike. It's like, oh yeah, there's just life. Life does everything. I'm just witnessing how the body is being lived. Yeah? So we're trying to jump from stage 1 to stage 4, which is not the way it's meant to be. To go from being the personal doer to the non-doer, that's a gap which feels insurmountable to the mind until we give it the steps to walk across. So acting with life is the first step to master, and then allowing life to completely live you and act through you is the second step. And then that third step into stage 4 is onto that final shore of non-doership. So when you come to know these things as facts of your experience, when you come to know that you are acting with life and never apart from it, every action you take has a consequence. This is where all evil and sin comes from, is people believe that their actions are not connected to the whole. People believe their actions don't carry karmic consequences. Nobody could ever think about harming another being if they knew that the harm they do will come back to them. You'd be like, oh, no way. I'm going to be only kind and loving to people because I only want people to be kind and loving to me, right? The thief doesn't want to be stolen from. The murderer doesn't want to be murdered. The liar doesn't want to be lied to. Yeah? We want to be happy. And so if we know that our happiness is contingent upon the happiness we give, it becomes easy and automatic, doesn't it? To be humble, to be kind, to be generous, to be grateful. Because we know what we give is what we receive. I always act with life. If people knew this, there would be no possibility of war or strife or division or any of that on our planet. So every circumstance is not occurring against you, or every event is not happening to you, but every event is simply feedback from the universe. Every circumstance is the response of the universe to your own prior thoughts and actions, giving you the chance to see new reflections every moment of your state of consciousness. I act with life, and life gives me the feedback of how my actions are. If I'm out of balance, then life shows me that through some challenging circumstances that arise, or I experience the consequences of those actions and go, that didn't really lead to an outcome I wanted. So maybe I should rethink that kind of action. Maybe there's a higher way of being. Maybe there's a higher response to life than that. These are the things we have to contemplate, right? We need to sit with the implications of these facts, of our connectedness with life. And we need to practice what it means to say being in cooperation with life. And guess what? This is the practice that Ra gives us in the Law of One. It's catalyst integration. Learning from your life experiences and analyzing your life experiences in meditation, contemplation, going, why did I attract that? Why did that experience happen? Why did that reaction come out of me like that? Why did I say that? When you're contemplating life, you are in cooperation. Catalyst integration is cooperation with life. Life serves you something, you say, thank you, life, I'll sit with that. What does this mean? And life says, very good, devotee. You're learning the lessons that I'm serving you. Catalyst integration takes us into that first step out of personal doership, the second stage. We act with life when we contemplate our life experiences and what they mean and what they're teaching us. So the summary of all of this is that life is cooperation, not control. Life is cooperation, not control. That's the first stage to really saturate your mind with. Life is a constant choice between control or cooperation. And in control, you act alone. As a solo performer on the stage of life, doomed to rely solely upon the feeble limits of the human intellect. in control, you have only a tiny fragment of the variables and the information you need to make the best decision possible, right? But in cooperation, you act with God, and all the power and intelligence of the universe is now at your back. And you have awareness of more variables because you're paying attention, you're tuning in to the surrounding, you're tuning in to the connection of all things, saying, how does this action or thought or belief affect the universe around me, my personal reality? So in cooperation, you're acting not as a separate, isolated character, but you're acting as life itself. So you gain the power of life, and you act in perfect harmony with the one power that already rules the universe. And so technically, even getting to the point where it's become a new baseline awareness for you, that I always act with life, everything that happens is for me, and everything that happens is teaching me, and I pay attention and I learn my lessons. That's acting with life, right? When you get to that point, technically that's already a shade of non-doership. That's like the first foundation of non-doership. Eventually, living a life where you're always integrating catalyst, always learning from life, will take you to the second stage of non-doership, or the third rather, in our progression, which is being lived. Now it's like you're beyond even the concept of life is teaching me and I am learning. There's no life and me anymore. I am life. I am life. I am being lived by life. That's the reward that we gain from using our life catalysts and learning from our life experiences as we merge with life and eventually come into full non-doership. This progression is possible for any of us who want it. But are you willing to put in the work, so to speak, of contemplating and practicing these truths so that they integrate through you? You've got to put it to the test, right? You've got to actually live this stuff out, because it's not just what we know, but it's how we live and how we act upon what we know that integrates the truth and allows us to embody it and bring it into the heart as a new abiding state of awareness.